There's a place deep within the forbidden forest where the trees whisper secrets only the bravest, or perhaps the most curious, can hear. Tonight, as the sun dips below the horizon and the first stars blink awake, Luna Lovegood steps into that shadowy world, her silver blue eyes wide with wonder. The air hums with something unseen, a melody of rustling leaves and distant, unearthly growls. She's not afraid, not really. After all, the most extraordinary things often hide just beyond the edges of what we think we know. And you, yes you, are invited to follow her into this twilight realm, where the line between myth and reality blurs like mist between the trees. Where are you listening from tonight? Is it the hush of midnight where you are, or the golden glow of evening? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to imagine you there, wrapped in the same quiet magic as Luna, wherever you are. Because this isn't just a story, it's an invitation to wander beyond the familiar, to listen for the whispers that dance just beyond ordinary hearing. The forbidden forest guards its secrets well, but Luna has always had a knack for finding what others overlook. And tonight, she's not alone. You're with her, step by step, as the forest reveals its unheard tales. Can you hear it? That faint, fluttering sound, like wings brushing against the dark. It's not the wind, it's not the trees. Somewhere in the depths, creatures older than Hogwarts itself stir, their voices woven into the very fabric of the forest. Some are gentle, their presence like a lullaby. Others, well, let's just say Luna's radish earrings might not be the quirkiest thing you encounter tonight. But that's the thrill of it, isn't it? The unknown, the almost forgotten, the stories tucked between the pages of history like pressed flowers. So take a deep breath. Let the crackle of leaves underfoot and the distant call of something marvelous pull you deeper. The forest is waiting, and oh, the tales it longs to tell. The earth beneath Luna's feet feels alive, shifting ever so slightly with the breath of the forest. Her wand light flickers, catching the edges of something massive and winged just beyond the trees. Those glowing eyes, pale as mist, deep as sorrow, hold her in place. The Distral doesn't move, doesn't blink. It simply watches, its skeletal frame half hidden by shadow. Most would turn back. Most would see those eyes and think of graves, of loss, of whispered warnings. But Luna tilts her head, her radish earrings swaying, and takes a step closer. There's a hush here, thicker than the usual quiet of the woods. No birdsong, no scampering of tiny paws. Just the rustle of the Thestrals' feathers as it shifts its weight. Luna knows what they say about these creatures, that they are omens, that they only appear to those who have witnessed the unthinkable. But she also knows the stories no one tells, how their wings carry the weight of the sky, how their silence isn't a curse but a language. A twig snaps somewhere to her left. The Thestral's ears twitch, but it doesn't flee. Instead it exhales, a sound like wind through hollow bones, and Luna swears she hears something beneath it. A whisper, a name. The forest has a way of bending reality at the edges, and for a heartbeat, she wonders if the creature is trying to speak. Then, movement. A second set of glowing eyes joins the first, then a third. They emerge from the gloom like stars winking into existence, each Thestral taller, darker, more magnificent than the last. Luna's breath catches. She's read about herds in old magizoology texts, but seeing them here, in the flesh, it's like stumbling upon a secret the world forgot to keep. One of them dips its head, nostrils flaring as it scents the air between them. Luna doesn't reach out, not yet. She knows better than to startle something that's tasted eternity. But she does smile, wide and unafraid, because in this moment, the forest isn't forbidden at all. It's generous, it's sharing, and as the Thestrals begin to step forward, slow, deliberate, their hooves leaving no mark on the moss, Luna realizes something wonderful. The stories were wrong. They don't just follow death. They guard the stories that come after, the ones we're too heartbroken to hear until we're ready. The Thestral's wings rustle as it turns, leading Luna through the tangled undergrowth with an unspoken urgency. The trees part suddenly, revealing a moonlit clearing where the air shimmers like liquid silver. And there, curled in a trembling heap of iridescent fur, lies a Mooncalf, its enormous, pupil-less eyes wide with pain. A jagged gash runs along its side, dark against its pale coat, and its breaths come quick and shallow. Luna's heart squeezes. She's seen Mooncalves dance under the full moon, their long limbs weaving patterns in the dew, but this is all wrong. She drops to her knees, her fingers hovering just above the wound. The creature flinches, a whimper escaping its throat, but Luna doesn't pull away. Instead, she hums, a lilting, wordless tune her father used to sing when she'd scraped her knees as a child. The Mooncalf's ears twitch. Slowly, so slowly, its panicked breathing steadies. The gash is deep, too deep. Luna's mind races. Her pouch holds only a handful of essentials. Dittany, a spool of enchanted bandages, a vial of something purple and bubbling that even she can't quite remember the purpose of. It might be enough, or it might not, and if she leaves to find Madame Pomfrey or Hagrid, who knows what might find the Mooncalf first. The forest thrums with unseen things, and not all of them are as gentle as the Thestrals. A cool breeze stirs the grass. The Thestral watches from the edge of the clearing, its head bowed as if in silent counsel. Luna bites her lip. She's patched up stray Neasels and rescued trapped Bowtruckles, but this is different. Mooncalves are fragile. Their magic is tied to the moon's phases, and tonight's waning crescent offers little comfort. Yet as the creature's eyes meet hers, glassy with trust, Luna feels something settle inside her. She uncorks the dittany with her teeth, the sharp herbal scent cutting through the night air. This might sting a bit, she murmurs, tilting the vial. The liquid hits the wound with a hiss, and the Mooncalf jerks, but Luna's hands are steady. She wraps the bandages with quick, practiced motions, her fingers weaving spells into the fabric. The enchantments glow faintly, stitching skin and soothing pain where her supplies fall short. For a heartbeat, nothing moves. Then, the Mooncalf's trembling eases. Its chest rises and falls in a slow, steady rhythm, and its eyes, still too bright with pain, soften. Luna leans back on her heels, her shoulders aching with relief. It's not perfect. It's not a healer's work, but it's enough. The Distral exhales behind her, a sound almost like approval. Above them, the stars blink awake, and Luna smiles. The forest didn't bring her here to abandon its wounded. It brought her here because she'd listen, because she'd try, and sometimes in the forbidden forest, that's the rarest magic of all. Luna's scarf flutters to the ground like a wounded bird, as she tears it into strips with quick, sure motions. The Mooncalf shivers under her touch, its breath hitching, but she doesn't falter, just presses one hand gently against its heaving side, while the other weaves the fabric into a makeshift bandage. The earthy scent of crushed herbs rises from the poultice she's tucked beneath the cloth, their healing magic seeping into torn flesh. A drop of sweat slides down her temple, despite the evening chill. Time stretches thin as spider silk, then warm breath against her neck. The Thestral's muzzle nudges her shoulder, insistent, its skeletal wings twitching with unease. Luna doesn't need to ask why. The distant snarls prickling the air tell her everything. Something with too many teeth is prowling the shadows, drawn by the scent of blood. Her fingers tighten around her wand, its wood humming against her palm like a second heartbeat. The forest holds its breath. Even the wind stills. Somewhere beyond the clearing, branches crack under unseen weight. Closer this time, closer still. The Mooncalf's wide eyes reflect the wand light, twin moons brimming with silent terror. Luna knows that look. She's worn it herself first year, cornered by Ravenclaw bullies near the astronomy tower. Back then, she'd hum to herself until the panic ebbed. But tonight, there's no time for songs. Leaves rustle to her left. The Distral rears up, its wings casting jagged shadows across the clearing. And for the first time since stepping into the woods, Luna feels the weight of her own heartbeat. This isn't just about healing anymore. This is about claiming space in a world where teeth often speak louder than wands. She rises slowly, her knees protesting, and turns to face the darkness, just as the undergrowth parts with a wet, guttural growl. Yellow eyes gleam like cursed gold. The creature that slinks forward is all matted fur and exposed ribs, its muzzle streaked with old blood. A werewolf. No too gaunt, too twisted. This is something the forest has reshaped through hunger and loneliness, something that's forgotten its own name. Saliva drips from its jaws as it scents the air, nostrils flaring at the Mooncalf's fear. The Distral stamps its hooves, a warning that shakes the ground, but the beast only snarls deeper. Luna's breath catches. She's read about predators like this in her father's magazines. Creatures warped by dark magic, their instincts sharpened to a razor's edge. They don't hunt for food. They hunt because the forest has taught them nothing else. Her fingers twitch toward her pocket, where a single vial of sleeping draught clinks against her thigh. Not enough, not nearly enough. The beast lunges not at her, not at the Distral, but straight for the wounded Mooncalf. Time splinters. Luna's shout mingles with the Distral's shriek as she throws herself forward, wand slashing the air. Obscuro, the spell hits true. Black fabric bursts from her wand tip, wrapping around the creature's eyes like a blindfold. It howls, thrashing, but she's already moving, yanking the Mooncalf back by its uninjured leg. The Distral rears again, its hooves striking earth with enough force to split roots, and for one dizzying moment, the entire forest seems to tremble. Then silence. The blinded beast whimpers, disoriented, its claws tearing at the spellcloth. Luna doesn't wait to see if it breaks free. She hooks her arms under the Mooncalf's trembling body and heaves, staggering toward the Distral. Please, she gasps, though she's not sure what she's asking for. The creature understands anyway. It dips one vast wing like a ramp, and Luna half falls, half climbs onto its back, the Mooncalf cradled against her chest. As the Distral surges upward, wings beating against the star-streaked sky, Luna looks down at the clearing shrinking below them. The beast still snarls, but its cries grow fainter, swallowed by the trees. The victory feels hollow. That creature wasn't born a monster. The forest made it one, just as it's made her something new tonight, not just a visitor. Not just a healer, a part of its ancient, unending story. The wind whips her hair into a silver frenzy as the treetops blur beneath them, and for the first time, Luna wonders if the Forbidden Forest ever truly lets go of those who walk its paths. The ground trembles like a drum skin beneath something enormous, something ancient. Luna barely has time to tighten her grip on the Mooncalf before the trees explode outward, splintering, surrendering to the sheer bulk of what emerges. Graphorns, not one, not two, but an entire pack, their armored hides glinting like wet slate in the moonlight. Each step sends shockwaves through the earth, their curved claws digging trenches in the soil. The Distral screeches and takes flight, its wings churning the air above them, but Luna can't follow, not with the Mooncalf's weight anchoring her to the ground. The largest Graphorn lifts its head, nostrils flaring as it scents the blood still seeping through the bandages. Its eyes, black and depthless as tar pits, lock onto them. Luna's pulse hammers in her throat. Hagrid's booming voice suddenly fills her memory. Graphorns, brilliant creatures, just don't let 'em corner ye. Hate loud noises, they do. Rattles their bones right through all that armor. Her wand is in her hand before the thought fully forms, its cherry wood warm against her palm. The sonorous charm sits on her tongue, ready, but doubt flickers. What if the sound panics the Mooncalf further? What if it draws worse things from the deeper woods? The lead Graphorn snorts, lowering its horns like battering rams, and Luna makes her choice. Sonorous, the word tears from her lips, magnified 100-fold by magic. It crashes through the forest like a landslide, branches shudder, leaves rain down, and for one deafening moment, the very air seems to vibrate. The effect is instant. The Graphorns recoil as if struck, their massive heads swinging side to side in confusion. The youngest of the pack lets out a high, distressed whine, scrambling back into the underbrush. The others follow, their thunderous footfalls fading into the distance, but Luna doesn't lower her wand. Not yet. Silence rushes back in, sharper than before. The Mooncalf whimpers against her knees, its ears flat against its skull. Even the Distral circles warily, as if unsure whether to land. Luna exhales, her shoulders slumping, but the relief is short-lived. Because the forest isn't done with her tonight. Somewhere beyond the shaken trees, something answers her spell with a noise of its own. Not a roar, not a howl, but a hum. Low, curious, almost melodic, Luna's breath catches. She knows that sound, or at least, she's read about it in the Quibbler's most contested edition. But that's impossible, unless the forest is far older, far stranger, than even her father's wildest articles suggested. The Thestrals' wings still. The Mooncalf's trembling eases, and as the hum swells, weaving between the trees like invisible thread, Luna realizes with dawning wonder that the Graphorns weren't the threat at all. They were running from something. The rustling isn't wings after all. It's the sound of 100 tiny fingers plucking at the air, a chorus of leafy whispers rising from the branches overhead. The Bowtruckles descend in a shimmering cascade, their luminescent bodies pulsing with erratic light, like fireflies caught in a storm. Their usual emerald glow has turned feverish, tinged with amber at the edges. Luna knows that color. It means fear. One lands on her wrist, its twig-like fingers digging into her skin with surprising urgency. Another clings to her scarf, its glowing eyes wide as it chitters something too fast to decipher. The Distral snorts, stamping its hooves, but the little creatures don't scatter as they normally would. Instead, they swarm closer, their tiny voices overlapping into a single, desperate hum. Luna tilts her head, listening. Bowtruckles don't just abandon their trees, not unless something has shaken them from their roots. The Mooncalf whines, its ears flattening as the glow from the Bowtruckles casts strange shadows across its bandaged side. Luna follows their frantic gestures toward the heart of the forest, where the oldest oaks twist together like interlocked fingers. There, half hidden by moss and shadow, a jagged gash splits the trunk of the largest tree, a wound oozing thick, silvery sap. Luna's breath catches. That's no ordinary mark. It's too precise, too deliberate, as if something with claws sharper than an Acromantula's fangs had carved into the bark like parchment. The Bowtruckle on her wrist trembles, its light flickering. It points again, this time lower, to the base of the tree, where the roots knot together. Nestled in the hollow is a clutch of tiny, pearlescent eggs, Bowtruckle eggs, their shells so thin they're nearly translucent. Luna's stomach drops. They've been moved, disturbed, and the parent Bowtruckles wouldn't risk bringing her here unless a twig snaps. The Thestrals' wings flare wide, blocking the moonlight as a figure slinks from the undergrowth. Not a beast this time, not quite. The creature standing before them is all sinew and stolen trinkets, a poacher's satchel slung across its hunched shoulders, clinking with glass vials. Its fingers end in cruel, curved talons, still glistening with tree sap. The Bowtruckle's light dims to a terrified hush. Luna's grip tightens on her wand. She's heard rumors of things like this lurking in the forest's depths, beings that walk the line between human and something else, twisted by greed and dark magic. The creature's yellowed eyes lock onto the eggs, then flick to her, calculating. It doesn't speak, doesn't need to. The hunger in its gaze says enough. The Thestral's breath gusts hot against her neck. Luna knows what it's asking. They could leave. They could take the Mooncalf and go, vanish into the sky before those talons find purchase. But the Bowtruckle's trembling light reflects in her wide eyes, and in that moment, she understands something with crystalline clarity. The forest didn't lead her here to run. It led her here to remember. Some wounds aren't just gashes in bark or broken eggs. Some wounds are quieter, deeper, the kind that fester when good things are taken and no one speaks up. Luna Lovegood has never been very good at staying silent. Her wand hums to life, not with a spell, but with a single, clear note, a sound like wind chimes made of starlight. The Bowtruckle's still. The creature hesitates, and high above, where the branches knit together like a cathedral ceiling, the oldest oak begins to sing back. The Bowtruckle's tiny fingers clutch at Luna's sleeve like anxious children, pulling her toward the gnarled oak. Up close, the runes carved into its bark aren't just ancient. They are alive, pulsing faintly with a light that matches the Bowtruckle's own eerie glow. Each symbol feels warm under Luna's fingertips, as if the tree's very sap has memorized the shape of these words and hums them quietly to itself. She leans closer, her breath stirring the moss clinging to the trunk. The markings aren't in any language she recognizes, not from her father's magazines or the dusty tomes in the Hogwarts library, but the way they curve, like desperate fingers reaching, makes her chest tighten. One Bowtruckle scrambles onto her shoulder, its twiggy limbs trembling as it points to a cluster of runes near the base. These are different, smudged, deliberately defaced. Luna's thumb brushes over the damage, and the tree shudders, releasing a scent like burnt honey. The Bowtruckles let out a collective gasp, their lights dimming to embers. Whatever was written here wasn't just a warning, it was a name. The Distral paws the ground behind her, its wings rustling uneasily. Luna knows that sound. It's the same one the herd made when they led her to the wounded Mooncalf. The forest doesn't speak in sentences, it speaks in shivers, in shifts of shadow, in the way the air changes when something important is about to happen. And right now, every leaf, every root, every drop of sap in this tree is screaming. A sudden gust whirls through the clearing, carrying with it a whisper so soft Luna almost misses it. Forgotten, the word curls around her like ivy, sending goosebumps down her arms. The Bowtruckles freeze. Even the wounded tree seems to hold its breath. Because that voice didn't come from the wind. It came from beneath, from the tangled roots, knotted deep in the earth. Luna drops to her knees, her palms pressing into the damp soil. The ground thrums, not with the steady heartbeat of the forest, but with something jagged and irregular, like a creature trapped underground, scratching at the walls of its cage. The Bowtruckles swarm her wrists, their tiny lights flaring bright as they tug her hands away, their chitters frantic. But it's too late. The runes on the tree blaze suddenly gold, their light slicing through the gloom like knives, and the message, fragmented, half erased, finally pieces itself together in Luna's mind. They buried it here, the thing that remembers. The screech slices through the clearing like shattered glass, sending the Bowtruckles scattering into the branches. Luna doesn't need to turn to know what's behind her. The weight of 8 glistening eyes presses against her spine like cold fingertips. The Acromantulas shadow swallows the moonlight as it creeps forward, each leg tipped with curved claws that sink into the earth with wet, squelching sounds. Its mandibles click in hungry anticipation, dripping venom that sizzles against fallen leaves. Luna's breath stops midair. Every tale she's ever heard about Acromantulas floods her mind. Their speed, their cunning, how they toy with prey before the final strike. Running would be suicide. Screaming would only excite it. Even the Thestrals' protective stance won't matter against something this size. Her wand feels suddenly small, terribly small, against her palm. The spider lunges, not at her, but at the wounded Mooncalf still huddled at her feet. Instinct takes over. Luna's body moves before her mind catches up, throwing herself sideways with a cry. Protego, the shield erupts just in time, shimmering like disturbed water as the Acromantula's claw ricochets off it. The force sends vibrations up her arm, rattling her teeth. The creature rears back, hissing, but already its other legs are testing the shield's edges, searching for weakness. The Distral surges forward, its skeletal wings battering the air, but the Acromantula barely flinches. One massive leg lashes out, catching the Distral across the flank. Dark feathers scatter as it stumbles with a pained shriek. Luna's heart plummets. They're outmatched, outmaneuvered. Even if she apparated, which she's terrible at, she'd never leave the Mooncalf behind. Then movement in the treetops. At first, Luna thinks it's wind, but the branches aren't swaying. They're twisting, curling inward like grasping hands. The Bowtruckles have returned, dozens upon dozens of them, their ember-bright bodies swarming the Acromantulas' legs. They don't attack, they don't bite, they simply cling, their combined weight dragging the spider's limbs downward with shocking force. The Acromantula shrieks, thrashing, but the Bowtruckles hold fast. And now Luna sees it, the silvery threads winding from their tiny fingers, glistening like spider silk, but stronger, far stronger. The threads aren't restraining the creature. They're connecting to it, weaving into its own dark webbing, unraveling something vital. The Acromantula's movements grow sluggish, confused as if it's forgotten why it's here. Luna doesn't question the miracle. She grabs the Mooncalf and scrambles onto the Thestrals' back just as the ancient oak behind them groans, a sound so deep it vibrates in her ribs. The roots erupt from the soil, thick as castle walls, and slam down atop the disoriented Acromantula. Dirt sprays, the ground heaves, and when the dust clears, the clearing is empty save for the Bowtruckles, perched solemnly on the newly settled roots. Their glowing eyes meet Luna's, not with triumph, but with quiet sorrow. This wasn't a victory, it was a reckoning, because the forest doesn't punish intruders, it remembers them, absorbs them, and somewhere in the tangled dark, another secret takes root. The sudden flare of Luna's Lumos spell paints the clearing in blinding white, searing the Acromantula's many eyes. It rears back with a screech, its legs flailing wildly as Luna vaults onto the Thestrals' back, clutching the Mooncalf tight against her ribs. They surge upward, just as the spider's talons slash the air where she'd stood moments before. Wind howls in her ears as the treetops shrink below, the Acromantula's furious clicks growing fainter, swallowed by the night. But the forest isn't finished with them yet. A movement catches Luna's eye, a shadow where no shadow should be. At first, she thinks it's a trick of the moonlight, but then it thickens, swirling between the oaks like ink in water. Her stomach knots. Dementors drift, they don't slither. This thing moves with purpose, coiling around trunks and smothering patches of glowing mushrooms as it goes. Where it passes, the Bowtruckles' lights gutter out. Even the wind seems to die in its presence. The Distral banks sharply, as if sensing the danger before Luna does. Its wings beat harder, carrying them higher, but the mist follows, not chasing, hunting. It slithers up the sides of trees, dripping from branches like tar, and for one heart-stopping moment, Luna swears she sees shapes in the gloom. Faces stretching and melting, hands clawing at the edges of the darkness only to be swallowed again. Then the whispers start, not the gentle murmurs of the Bowtruckles or the Thestrals' wordless warnings. These are voices Luna recognizes: her mother's laughter, a professor's scolding, the taunts of classmates, all twisted together into a single, suffocating hum. The Mooncalf whimpers, pressing its face against her chest, but Luna can't block it out. The mist is feeding, pulling memories from the air like threads from a tapestry. She knows what this is now, not a Dementor, not a ghost. It's older, hungrier, a Lethifold wearing the skin of a storm. Her father wrote about them once, in that peculiar way he had of blurring fact and folklore. But the article had been buried between tales of crumple-horned snorkags and dirigible plum prophecies. She'd thought he was exaggerating. The Thestrals' wings falter as the mist surges upward, tendrils snatching at its hooves. Luna's wand trembles in her grip. The Patroness charm is the only defense, but her happiest memory feels slippery, distant, drowned out by the thing's relentless whispers. The Mooncalf's frightened eyes meet hers, and suddenly she understands. It's not her joy she needs. She presses her forehead to the creature's downy fur, breathing in the scent of crushed herbs and moonlit dew. The memory comes unbidden. A night last summer, sitting on the Hogwarts lawn with this very Mooncalf, watching its long limbs trace constellations in the grass as it danced. Pure, wordless wonder. Expecto Patronum. The silver hair bursts from her wand, brighter than she's ever seen it, its glow cutting through the mist like a blade. The Lethifold recoils with a sound like tearing parchment, its form rippling as the Patroness charges forward. For a heartbeat, the darkness shatters, revealing not just sky, but something beyond it. A glimpse of towering, thorned gates, half buried in the earth, rusted shut. Then the mist reforms, thicker, angrier, and the vision is gone. The Distral doesn't wait. It plunges into the clouds, leaving the swirling darkness behind. But Luna's mind lingers on those gates, because the forest didn't just show her a threat tonight. It showed her a secret, and secrets, especially the buried ones, always have teeth. The Lethifold's mist curls around them like smoke from a dying fire, tendrils stretching to brush against the Distral's wings. Each touch leaves behind a frost that crackles unnaturally, sapping the warmth from the air. Luna's fingers ache where they grip the Distral's feathers, her breath coming in shallow gasps. The Patroness flickers again, its light dimming as the creature's whispers coil tighter around her mind, dredging up half-forgotten fears. Her mother's empty chair at the Ravenclaw table, the sting of Luna Lovegood hissed behind cupped hands, the way even Hagrid sometimes looks at her like she's one wrong turn from vanishing into her own imagination. But then the Mooncalf shifts in her arms, its damp nose pressing into her collarbone. Its trembling isn't just from pain anymore, it's listening. Luna follows its wide-eyed gaze downward, where the mist has begun to twist itself into grotesque imitations of the forest creatures. A Thestral with too many legs, a Bowtruckle with jagged teeth, a Mooncalf whose dancing limbs snap like brittle twigs. The Lethifold doesn't just feed on fear, it shapes it, molding despair into something tangible. Luna squeezes her eyes shut. The textbook definition of a Patroness rushes back, a guardian that acts as a shield between you and despair. But the words feel hollow. This isn't about reciting spells. It's about remembering what the darkness hasn't stolen, like the way her father's voice cracks when he reads her letters aloud to an empty kitchen, pretending she's just in the next room. The first time Ginny handed her a chocolate frog card under the table, after a week of silence from the other Gryffindors. The Mooncalf's quiet, hiccuping sigh as her bandages smoothed its pain. Her wand hand steadies. The silver hair doesn't just reappear, it explodes into being, so bright that the Thestral's skeletal frame casts a sharp shadow against the trees below. The Lethifold recoils with a hiss, its misty form rippling like water struck by a stone. For a heartbeat, the darkness scatters, revealing the forest floor far below and the crumbled ruins of a structure older than Hogwarts, its stones etched with the same runes as the wounded oak. Then the mist surges back, thicker now, its whispers rising to a roar. The Distral doesn't wait for a second attack. It tucks its wings and plummets. The sudden drop wrenching a gasp from Luna's lungs. Wind screams past them, the Lethifold's grasping tendrils falling away as they spiral toward the treetops. Just before impact, the Distral levels out, skimming so close to the branches that twigs snag Luna's sleeves. Behind them, the mist writhes, trapped in the tangled canopy. But already, she can see it seeping through, relentless as fog under a door. The ruins loom ahead, their jagged outline silhouetted against a patch of starless sky. Something hums in the air here, older than magic, deeper than spells. The Mooncalf goes rigid in her arms, its ears swiveling toward the crumbling archway at the center of the stones. Luna knows that look. It's the same one the Bowtruckles wore when they showed her the wounded tree. Not fear, but recognition. The forest didn't lead them here to escape. It led them here to witness. The moment the Thestrals' hooves touch the mossy ground of the glade, the air changes. It's not just the sudden absence of the Lethifold's whispers, or even the way the Mooncalf's breathing steadies against Luna's chest. It's the silence, deep and watchful, like the forest itself has drawn a quiet breath. The Centaurs stand motionless between the trees, their flanks silvered by moonlight, their eyes reflecting constellations Luna can't name. Not one of them moves, not one of them blinks. The tallest Centaur steps forward, his beard threaded with vines, his bow slung across his back like a warning. "You disturb the balance," he says, his voice low as roots shifting in the earth. The others murmur agreement, their hooves pressing devots into the soft ground. Luna knows this glade, not because she's been here before, but because she's seen it in dreams, the kind that linger at the edge of waking, too vivid to dismiss. The kind her mother used to call true dreams. She doesn't dismount, doesn't reach for her wand. Instead, she lifts her chin just enough to meet the Centaur's gaze, starry and endless, like looking into the night sky through a keyhole. "I didn't mean to," she says, and it's the simplest truth she's ever spoken. The Mooncalf shifts in her arms, its bandages catching the light, and the Centaur's nostrils flare. "Intentions are leaves in the wind," he replies. "What matters is the storm." His eyes flick to the ruins beyond the glade, where the Lethifold's mist still coils like smoke. "You've awakened what should have stayed buried." Luna follows his gaze. The stones loom darker now, their runes pulsing faintly, as if something beneath them has heard its name. She thinks of the gates she glimpsed rusted shut. Yes, but gates open both ways. "Then help me put it back to sleep," she says, turning back to the Centaur. Before it remembers how to walk, the Centaurs exchange glances, their silence heavy with things unsaid. The tallest lowers his head, his breath stirring the petals at Luna's feet. "You carry the wounded," he observes, "and the hunted, and yet you ask for nothing but passage." Luna adjusts her grip on the Mooncalf, feeling its heartbeat against her ribs. "I'm not asking for me," she says softly. A breeze stirs the glade, carrying the scent of crushed juniper and something older, something that tastes like buried lightning. The Centaur straightens, his tail flicking once, decisively. "Then we will show you the way," he says, "not because you are owed, but because the forest has chosen to speak through you tonight." He turns, his hooves barely whispering against the moss. "Walk carefully, child of stars. Even shadows have teeth." The others part before him, revealing a path Luna swears wasn't there a moment ago. A slender trail of bioluminescent mushrooms, their glow soft as candlelight. The Mooncalf's ears twitch. The Distral exhales long and slow, as if recognizing a scent from another lifetime. And as Luna steps forward, the Centaurs melt into the trees, their silence no longer a warning, but a vigil. The glade isn't just a place, it's a threshold, and what lies beyond doesn't belong to the world she knows. The Centaur's star-flecked eyes darken as he gestures to the trembling leaves above them. "Can you not feel it?" he murmurs, his voice rough as bark. The forest breathes like a wounded thing. Even the trees forget their own names. Luna's fingers tighten around the Mooncalf's bandages. She had felt it the way the Bowtruckles' light flickered like guttering candles, the Graphorns' frantic charge, the Lethifold's hunger. But those weren't just scattered dangers. They were threads pulling loose from the same unraveling tapestry. The Centaurs heard shifts restlessly, their hooves etching nervous patterns into the moss. "This is no place for your kind now," says a mare with scars laddering her flank. "The magic here is old. It forgets the shape of human hearts." Their gazes flick to the ruins, where the runes pulse faintly, as if something beneath the stones is dreaming fitfully. Luna slides from the Distral's back, her boots sinking into the soft earth. The Mooncalf whines, nosing at her sleeve, but she doesn't turn back. "If the forest is sick," she says slowly, "then Hogwarts is next." The words hang in the air, heavier than she intended. She thinks of the greenhouse vines withering overnight, of the first years whispering about nightmares that leave their wands cold. The Centaurs exchange glances. They've seen it too. The eldest Centaur steps closer, his shadow swallowing Luna whole. "You speak of paths even we dare not walk," he warns. What stirs below does not sleep. It waits. His breath smells of thunderstorms and damp parchment. "Leave, star child. Carry your wounded and forget this glade." For a heartbeat, Luna imagines it turning away, letting the Distral carry them both into the safety of the sky. But then the wind shifts, carrying a sound that isn't a sound at all. A vibration, deep and resonant, like a plucked string, the length of the horizon. The Mooncalf gasps, the Centaurs stiffen, and Luna knows with terrible certainty that whatever's calling isn't just beneath the ruins, it's beneath her. She lifts her chin. "I can't," she says simply. The Centaurs hiss through their teeth. The Distral paws the ground, torn between loyalty and fear. Luna doesn't blame them. But she's already stepping forward, toward the glowing mushroom path, because some choices aren't really choices at all. They're just the moment when you finally hear the question the universe has been asking you all along. The Centaurs don't try to stop her. They simply melt back into the trees, their silence louder than any protest. Only the eldest remains, his bow drawn but not aimed. "Then take this," he says, pressing a single silver arrow into her palm. Its tip glimmers with something that isn't metal. "When the time comes, you'll know." Luna tucks it into her scarf, next to the vial of sleeping draught and the crumpled chocolate frog card Ginny gave her last Tuesday. The Mooncalf tries to follow, but she shakes her head. "Stay with them," she whispers, pressing her forehead to its velvety nose. "I'll come back. I always come back. The lie tastes like ash, because the path ahead doesn't feel like a place you return from. It feels like a door, swinging shut behind you, and as Luna steps into the tunnel of glowing mushrooms, the last thing she hears isn't the Centaurs or the Distral's desperate cry. It's the whisper of roots knitting closed over her head, sealing her in. Alone, but not, she realizes with a jolt, unexpected. The walls around her aren't earth and stone. They're ribs, arching high above, slick with something that hums in her bones. And at the far end, where the glow of the mushrooms frays into darkness, two great, slitted eyes blink open, waiting. The mushrooms glow gutters like candlelight as Luna steps deeper into the tunnel, their pale light skittering over walls that aren't stone, but something older, twisted roots, woven so tightly, they've hardened into a lattice of bone and bark. The air thickens with each step, heavy with the scent of rotting petals and something sharper, metallic. Blood, no, oil, the kind that slicks cursed objects in old tales. Ahead, the Bowtruckles huddle in a shivering cluster, their tiny bodies backlit by an eerie, violet pulse from the ground. It's not a glow, it's a wound. A circle of earth lies bare before her, cracked and seeping blackened sap. At its center, half buried in the gnarled roots, glints a shard of something that shouldn't exist here. The fragment winks dully in the half-light, its edges jagged as broken teeth. Luna doesn't need to touch it to know what it is. The way the Bowtruckles avoid looking directly at it, the way the very air recoils. This isn't just dark magic. It's something fed on darkness, a Horcrux, or what's left of one. She crouches, her shadow stretching long across the corrupted soil. The Bowtruckles hiss a warning, but Luna's hand is already moving, her fingers hovering inches above the shard. It thrums, a vibration that travels up her arm like a whispered curse. Then pain. Thorned vines erupt from the earth, lashing around her wrist with vicious precision. Not to punish, to protect. The forest has wrapped this poison in a cage of its own making, and now those barbs bite deep, drawing thin lines of crimson. Luna doesn't pull away, doesn't scream. She watches, transfixed, as the vines tighten, not just restraining her, but communing. Their thorns press into her pulse points, and suddenly, the world tilts. Images flood her mind, the fragment's arrival, centuries ago, dropped by a screaming crow with two human eyes. The way the first drop of its poison turned the soil sour, how the oak above it wept silver sap for 100 years before hardening into something cruel. The Bowtruckles' ancestors tried to dig it up, only to wither within days, their light snuffed out like candles. The forest's last defense had been to swallow the horror whole, binding it in living chains. Luna gasps, yanking her arm back. The vines resist for one terrible second, then relent, slithering into the earth like serpents. The message is clear. This is not yours to take. But the fragment's poison has already seeped too far. She sees it now, the veins of black crawling through neighboring roots, the way the Bowtruckles' glow dims whenever they drift too close. The forest is dying by inches, and it would rather die than let this evil loose again. The Centaur's arrow burns against her ribs, not with heat, but purpose. Luna kneels, pressing her palms to the wounded earth. "You've been so brave," she murmurs, "but you don't have to carry this alone." Above her, the roots creak, their ancient language a chorus of distrust and despair. The Bowtruckles go very still. Then, one by one, they step forward. Luna's voice wavers at first, thin as spider silk in the cavernous dark, but the lullaby rises anyway, a melody her mother hummed when storms rattled the windows of their crooked house. The notes curl through the choking air, soft as dandelion fluff, and for a heartbeat, nothing changes. Then the vines twitch. Their thorned coils loosen just enough for Luna to glimpse the raw, pulsing skin beneath. Not plant matter at all, but something alive and weeping. The fragment shifts in its prison, its edges catching the Bowtruckles' dim light like a smirk. She doesn't stop singing, not when the ground begins to quake, not when the roots overhead splinter with sounds like breaking bones. The lullaby isn't just a spell, it's a tether, a thread woven from memories of her mother's fingers brushing her hair, of whispered promises that magic lives in the quietest places. The vines shudder, their grip faltering as if the song has reminded them of something kinder. Luna's fingers close around the fragment. The world erupts. The earth bucks like a wounded animal, throwing her to her knees. Trees scream, a sound so human it scrapes against her ribs, as their branches contort into grotesque imitations of grasping hands. The Bowtruckles scatter, their tiny lights darting like panicked fireflies, but Luna can't look away from the thing in her palm. The fragment is warm. Too warm, and it's pulsing, its rhythm syncing with the frantic hammer of her heart. Above her, the tunnel's roots peel apart like a flower, blooming in reverse, revealing a slash of storm-choked sky. Rain sluices through the gap, icy and sharp, but it's the sight beyond that freezes Luna's breath. The trees, the ancient, immutable trees, are moving. Not swaying, walking, their roots tear free of the soil with wet, sucking noises, their trunks groaning as they twist toward her with terrible deliberation. The fragment thrums, a vibration that travels up Luna's arm like a whispered dare. She'd thought the forest was dying. She'd thought she was saving it. But the truth slithers into her now, colder than the rain soaking her scarf. Some prisons aren't built to keep darkness in. They're built to keep something else out. And she's just handed it the key. The fragment scorches Luna's palm, its heat not of fire, but of something far worse, a malice that slithers up her veins like ink in water. Visions erupt behind her eyelids, sharp as shattered glass. Her mother's laughter cut short by a spell gone wrong. The way her father's hands shook as he lifted her from the wreckage. The hollow silence of a house that would never again smell of singed rosemary and parchment. Grief, fresh and raw as an open wound, crashes over her. She buckles, her knees striking the damp earth, the fragment's whispers threading through her mind like poison. You could bring her back, it hisses. You know the spells, the forbidden texts. All it would cost is a little darkness, then warmth. The Thestrals' velvet muzzle presses against her cheek, its breath steady as the tide. Its eyes, deep pools of starless night, hold no judgment, only quiet understanding. Luna's fingers tremble, but the creature doesn't flinch. It leans into her, its ribs rising and falling against her shoulder, a living reminder that some bonds outlast even death. The fragment's grip wavers. She clenches her jaw. The visions aren't real. The promise is a lie. This thing doesn't just feed on sorrow. It revels in it, twisting love into a weapon. Luna drags in a shuddering breath, the scent of moss and cold iron sharp in her nose. She won't let it win, not here, not while the forest's roots groan around her, their suffering echoing her own. The Centaur's arrow hums against her ribs, its silver tip glinting in the eerie half-light. Luna knows what she must do, not with fire, not with blade. Those are tools for battles fought in daylight. This requires something older, something that remembers when magic was less about spells and more about sacrifice. She lifts the fragment high, her arm trembling not from fear but defiance. "You don't belong here," she whispers, and then, louder, her voice ringing against the cavernous dark. "Finite incantatum. The spell isn't meant for Horcruxes. It's too simple, too ordinary, a first-year charm for unraveling minor hexes." But Luna isn't aiming to destroy the fragment. She's aiming to break its hold. The magic lashes out like a whip, snapping against the shard's pulsing core. For one heartbeat, nothing happens. Then the world screams. The fragment convulses, its edges blackening as if gripped by invisible flames. The visions shatter her mother's face, the wreckage, the silence, all collapsing into motes of light that scatter like embers on the wind. The ground heaves, roots tearing free as the forest itself recoils from the things death throws. The Bowtruckles cling to Luna's sleeves, their tiny lights flaring bright as suns, while the Distral spreads its wings like a shield against the raining soil. And then silence, true silence, the kind that comes not from emptiness, but from a wound finally closing. Luna uncurls her fingers. Where the fragment once lay, only a smear of ash remains, already crumbling in the damp air. The roots around them shudder, their blackened veins fading to a healthy russet as the forest draws its first clean breath in centuries. The Distral nuzzles her again, its feathers rustling with something like approval. Or maybe it's just relief, but Luna doesn't celebrate. She stares at the ash, her throat tight, because the hardest part isn't destroying darkness. It's walking away from the light it pretended to be. Luna's fingers tighten around the fragment, its slick surface pulsing like a living thing against her palm. Fiendfire. The words taste of ash and desperation, even before she speaks them. She's only ever read about the cursed flames in the most cautionary chapters of her textbooks, the ones prefaced with stern warnings in bold ink, uncontrollable, all-consuming, last resort. But the roots around them writhe with the forest's agony, their blackened tendrils creeping ever outward. There is no other choice. The incantation leaves her lips in a whisper, barely audible over the groan of dying trees. For a heartbeat, nothing happens. Then the air itself shrieks as the flames burst forth, not from her wand, but from the very earth beneath her, a seething tide of fire that twists into shapes too terrible to name. Serpents with eyes of molten gold, wolves with manes of crackling embers, great winged beasts that snap at the sky with fangs of white-hot fury. The heat slams into her like a physical force, singeing her robes and stealing the breath from her lungs. Luna hurls the fragment into the inferno. It doesn't burn. It screams a sound that isn't sound at all, but a vibration that shakes her teeth, rattles her bones. The fire recoils, rearing back as if scalded, then surges forward to swallow the shard whole. Shadows stretch and twist against the trees, dancing like tormented spirits as the flames gnaw at the fragment's edges. Something in the heart of the blaze thrashes, fighting back with a violence that sends sparks showering through the clearing. A root lashes out, wrapping around Luna's ankle with shocking force. She stumbles, the heat blistering her cheeks as the forest's pain bleeds into her. Not anger, not betrayal, but terror. She's brought fire to a world built of bark and leaf. The Distral shrieks, its wings beating frantically against the scorching wind. But Luna can't look away from the flames. They're changing, darkening. Streaks of Inkai black ripple through the gold, spreading like poison in water, The fragment isn't just burning, it's fighting back, tainting the fire that sought to destroy it. A tremor runs through the earth, deep enough to split the moss beneath her knees. The trees shudder, their canopies hissing as embers catch among the leaves. Luna's breath comes in ragged gulps. She wanted to save the forest, but as the first branch overhead bursts into flame, she realizes with sickening clarity, the only thing worse than a dying wood is one set ablaze by her own hand. The fire roars louder, its voice a chorus of anguish and fury, and in that moment, Luna knows the truth. Forgiveness was never the question. Survival is. And the forest writhing, burning, alive, has just begun to fight. The flames vanish so suddenly it leaves the world holding its breath. One moment, the clearing pulses with heat and fury. The next, only charred earth remains, cracked like a dried-up riverbed. The silence is so profound, Luna can hear the distant drip of sap from the wounded trees, the rustle of the Thestrals' feathers as it folds its wings. Even the Centaurs, usually so stoic, let out a collective exhale, their hooves shifting in the ash-strewn moss. The Mooncalf presses its damp nose to Luna's knee, its side now smooth and unbroken beneath her fingertips. No trace of the gash that nearly stole its life. Its eyes, wide and luminous, reflect not fear but something softer. Gratitude, maybe, or recognition. But Luna's fingers twitch at her side, her palm still stinging where the fragment burned her. Dark magic doesn't just disappear. It lingers in the way her skin prickles when she brushes against the scorched ground, in the faint, metallic taste clinging to the back of her throat. The Centaurs' gaze weigh heavy on her, their grudging respect laced with something sharper. She knows that look. It's the same one the Ravenclaw library gives rare, dangerous texts. Respect, yes, but also a silent vow to keep them locked away. The eldest Centaur steps forward, his beard dusted with soot. You walk paths even stars fear to tread. He murmurs, his voice like wind through dead leaves. But fire cleanses and corrupts. His eyes flick to her trembling hand, where tendrils of shadow still curl faintly around her fingertips, remnants of the fragment's last, desperate grip. Luna tucks her hand into her sleeve, but the Centaur isn't fooled. The scar will fade, he says, though his tone suggests it's not the mark on her skin he's speaking of. A breeze stirs, carrying the scent of new growth beneath the ash. The Bowtruckles emerge from the trees, their tiny lights flickering back to life like rekindled lanterns. They cluster around Luna's boots, their twiggy fingers plucking at her shoelaces, their hum a wordless chorus of relief. The forest is healing, but as Luna watches a sapling push its first green shoot through the blackened soil, she can't shake the feeling that some wounds aren't so easily buried. The Distral nudges her shoulder, its breath warm against her ear. It doesn't need words to ask the question hanging between them. Where now? Luna glances at the Centaurs, at the Mooncalf, at the faint, silvery scar tracing her palm. The answer comes as naturally as breathing. Home, she whispers, not because the forest is done with her. She knows better than that, but because some battles aren't fought with flame or fury. Some are fought in quiet kitchens, with hands that still shake when they pour the tea, and the war against darkness. It starts with remembering how to hold the light without burning. The Thestrals' wings stretch wide, their skeletal frame catching the moonlight like cathedral windows as it dips its head in a slow, deliberate bow. Luna exhales, her breath curling into the chilly air, and reaches out to brush her fingers against the creature's velvety muzzle. It shudders not from fear, but recognition, the kind shared between those who have stared into the same abyss and walked away different. She swings onto its back with practiced ease, the Mooncalf nestled securely in her arms. As they lift into the sky, the forest unfolds below them, alive in ways it hasn't been for centuries. Tendrils of new growth curl through the scorched earth, their emerald shoots defiant against the blackened soil. The Bowtruckles sway in the branches, their tiny lights pulsing like fireflies in a synchronized dance. Even the Graphorns lumber through the underbrush, their armored hides gleaming with dew instead of malice. The air hums with a chorus of creaking boughs and distant, echoing calls. Not warnings, but greetings. Yet Luna's smile is bittersweet. The weight of the fragments whispers still lingers in her bones, its promises slithering through her thoughts when the wind goes quiet. Knowledge like this isn't a gift, it's a burden, one she'll carry long after the forest has healed. The Centaurs watch from the glade's edge, their faces unreadable, but the eldest meets her gaze and lifts his bow in silent salute. It's not approval, it's acknowledgment. The Distral banks sharply as Hogwarts towers pierce the horizon, their stone glowing amber in the dawn light. Somewhere below, students yawn over breakfast, unaware of the night's battle. Luna tightens her grip on the Mooncalf, its warmth seeping through her sleeves. The forest's secrets are safe with her, but as the first rays of sun spill across the forbidden forest, turning the treetops to liquid gold, she wonders if safe is just another word for alone. The wind carries her home, but the shadows, older now, wiser, follow, not as enemies, not as allies, just witnesses, and the next time the forest calls, she knows it won't ask. It will remember. The quill scratches softly against parchment as Luna leans over her desk, the last of the evening light pooling gold across the page. Outside her tower window, the forbidden forest stretches like a living shadow, its canopy rustling with secrets only she can hear, or perhaps it's just the wind, though Luna's never been particularly fond of just anything. Her letter to Hagrid is careful, dotted with phrases like "found a rather interesting patch of mushrooms" and "met some new friends who don't care much for daylight." Enough to make him grin into his tea, not enough to send him charging into the trees with a crossbow. Some stories aren't meant for ink. Some truths settle into your bones like river silt, changing the shape of you in ways words can't capture. The scar on her palm tingles when she presses it to the cold glass, a silent reminder of roots that clung and flames that cleansed. Down in the forest, the Distral herd circles a moonlit clearing, their wings casting fleeting patterns on the grass. They don't wave, they don't call, but she knows, as surely as she knows her own name, that they remember. Magic like theirs isn't the kind that fades. It lingers in the hush between heartbeats, in the way the Bowtruckles still turn their tiny faces toward the castle at dusk, as if waiting. Luna seals the letter with a blob of lilac wax, imprinting it with the edge of her radish earring. Tomorrow, she'll slip it into Hagrid's massive palm and watch his eyes crinkle with delight. Tonight, though, she cups her hands around her mouth and breathes a single, whispered note, the same lullaby that calmed the vines, that soothed the Mooncalf. For a heartbeat, nothing happens. Then, far below, the treetops shiver in answer, their leaves sighing a harmony only she can name. the forest keeps its secrets. But secrets, Luna thinks as she tucks herself into bed, have a way of becoming friends when you listen closely enough. you.